Castrati. Some of you may know what this is, and some of you may not know. So let me tell you. Castrati is a male singer castrated before puberty so he can obtain a soprano or alto voice. The reason why they are castrated before puberty because once they hit puberty, their voice automatically goes lower. Now, I don't know how some of you feel about this, but that was the thing to do back in the 17th and 18th century. Castrati hit a peak during the 17th and 18th century, but soon died in the 19th century. During the 17th and 18th century, it was known as the Baroque period of time, or more specifically, the opera seria of Italy. During this period of time, music was brilliant, virtuous, had fantasy, and was spectacle. Castrati singers were suited to be as they were, which was artificially created voices with a huge amount of vocal ability, which they soon proven. Even though castrati is weird to some of you, we have actually lost a magnificent part of history. Now we can only understand castrati as being the voices of the 17th and 18th century. People today are not naturally talented as they were then, but then some of them may think that they weren't naturally talented because they were actually castrated to be sounding the way that they were then. Back in the 17th and 18th century, many castrati men were used in church choirs to sing as altos. As a matter of fact, according to USRF.org, 4,000 to 5,000 boys were castrated annually for this purpose, to be a castrati singer. They were castrated because women were prohibited to sing in the church choir. According to 1 Corinthians 14, verse 34, "Let your women keep silence in the churches, for it is permitted unto them to speak." During the period of castrati, Catholics were all for this, and they were not the first to accept this in history. Some Christians were actually willing to be castrated to uphold their chastity and abstinence, which was mainly ideal for believers in the 17th century so they could sustain their powerful devotion. The reason why castrati could be an immediate benefit for a boy of a poor family was not only because it gave him hope, but if he was soon to be good enough someday, the church or a tutor would take him under their wing and give him an education that he might not have ever have gotten if it wasn't for being castrated. Now, I know many of you think this is weird, and so do I, but the castrati singers were the greatest singers of all time in Italy. They were undisputed virtuosi of this era. Not only were they the greatest singers of all time in Italy, but they also took over opera for 2 whole centuries. 2 men that took over opera for 2 whole centuries were Alessandro Morsi and Carlo Broschi. According to J.S. Jenkins, Carlo Broschi was the most famous castrato singer of all time. He lived from 1705 to 1782. They did give him a nickname, which was Farinelli. He not only got a nickname, but he was known to have a legendary voice. His octave spanned from C3 to D6. Not only did he have an amazing octaves, but he could hold a note for 1 whole minute without taking a breath. Many of us can't do that nowadays. The second guy is Alessandro Morsi. He lived from 1858 to 1922. He was the last of the greatest castrati singers. In 1902, they recorded him off of a gramophone so that now he is digitally available for us as individuals to see what castrati really is, because they had that technology at that time. As a conclusion, I have informed you about the 17th and 18th century of castrati singers in Italy and gave 2 people, Alessandro Morsi and Carlo Broschi, as examples of great castrati singers. Thank you. I don't know which ones I already showed you, I'm sorry.